1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 colors. After watching this clip from one of my studies, you might have some questions. If you're asking, why do children count incorrect, wrong units? I'm here to give you some answers. What you just saw in the clip is a mistake that many children make. Regardless of what unit they've been asked for, they tend to count what they perceive as a discrete object. Let's take a look at counting and break down what children need to understand to correctly count how many colors there are. The first step is individuation. Individuation means to construct meaningful units in your mind. Here, children need to understand that the unit should be blue and yellow. The second step is the actual counting step. Here, children need to take the units they individuated and assign numbers to them. Counting follows a one-to-one correspondence. Each unit should correspond to one number when counting. Simple, right? So how come children so often make this mistake? What went wrong when they tried to count the colors? We looked at two possible accounts to explain this mistake. One way of explaining the mistake is to look at individuation. Maybe children count incorrect units because they constructed incorrect units in their mind. Children might have a bias to take every discrete object and individuate it into its own mental unit. They then go on to count everything they think is a unit. We can see how this would lead to the mistake that we saw earlier. An alternative explanation is that the mistake doesn't happen during individuation, but during counting. Maybe children can make correct mental units of blue and yellow. But for some reason, when it comes to counting, they misunderstand the one-to-one correspondence. Rather than having each number correspond to their mental units, they might think that every discrete object on the table needs to be counted. In another experiment, I asked children to individuate units by naming each unit and then sorting the toy animals to make a little group of each unit. If children don't have correct mental units, they should name each animal separately and struggle to sort them into their units. I also asked them to do a one-to-one correspondence task to see if they could assign one count, here represented as one block, to each mental unit. And of course, lastly, asked the children to count. In the video, we'll see a little girl who correctly named, sorted, and assigned blocks in one-to-one correspondence to each kind of animal as a unit. Here's what happened when I asked her to count.
4 blocks, exactly right. Okay, so remember, each kind of animal has one block. How many kinds of animals are there? Sheep, pig, horses, and cows. Exactly right. Sheep, pig, horses, and cows. Can you count how many kinds of animals there are? 10.
Fascinating, isn't it? Well, there were some children in this study who really couldn't do any of the tasks and struggled with individuation, but many children only struggled with counting. We can conclude that individuation bias alone cannot explain why children count incorrect units. Many children don't seem to have any problems creating correct mental units. But when it comes to counting, they just don't seem to use those mental units. Counting incorrect units seems to be a counting error. I told you earlier that counting requires one-to-one correspondence, and that this might be a problem for children. But in the experiment, we could see that children have no problem with making one-to-one correspondences for their mental units. So our new theory is that counting incorrect units could be an error of abstraction. Maybe Young children don't understand that counting can be done to units that are not discrete objects. Maybe they think if something has 9 animals, the answer to how many must always be 9. Maybe I could answer some of your questions about why young children count wrong units. Please get in touch with me if you have any further questions. You can email me or find me on Twitter at Theresa Wege. I want to thank all my wonderful collaborators on these projects, and thank you for watching this video.